Okay, so as per usual, just going to get straight into this video, and we're going to be taking a look at how you can create a cover in Canva for free. Now, just a couple of things before we get started with this. The first thing being that you're only going to want to create free covers in Canva when it comes to niches where you're having multiple books made. So for the most part, this is going to be your low content books. And the reason that I say that you create these for free as opposed to having them outsourced is because if you're following this channel or if you're doing low content books, then you should know by now that you have to have a sizable amount of low content books on your Amazon account in order to make sales with these. So if you're having your cover designed by an outsourcer for your low content books and you have hundreds of low content books, then obviously that's going to cost you a lot of money and you might not even see a return on that money for it to be worth it. So for me, for example, at the moment, I'm creating books, activity books, so word searches and things like that. So these are books where I'm going to be creating quite a few of these, at least 20. And I think I can do a good enough job creating these covers in Canva to the point where I don't feel the need to outsource these. And the good thing about creating these yourself is that if it's something like word searches, if it's something that you can have your own sort of brand, your own kind of theme with, then you don't actually need to change the template of your design that much between each book, if that makes sense. So I'm going to show you a little bit more about that inside the video if you don't quite see what I'm saying here. And the second thing here being is I want to make absolutely clear that I'm under no impression whatsoever that my designs, my personal designs, are going to be better than anyone else's that's watching this video, or that my designs are better than someone I can outsource the work to. But this is the way that I've been doing all my low content stuff for the last 2 years, and it's what I've found to work. And I think I said in previous videos, when it comes to creating, that when you don't have much design skill, like I don't have much design skill whatsoever, I'm using the most basic program here in Canva, is that when it comes to creating your covers, you need to create something that is effective and not necessarily good looking, filled with tons of graphics that's taking you hours and hours and hours to design. So for each cover for me, I don't want to spend anywhere near more than 1 hour making this. And for the most part, it's not going to be anywhere near that. And you'll find when it comes to creating these effective looking covers that what you can do is you can start writing down things that make sense to you within your cover design. So for example, you're going to start finding fonts that make big difference, ones that actually look nice on screen. And the more you experiment with this, the more you'll realize that you can create really effective looking covers without having to outsource to other people. Okay, so inside this video, we're going to take a look at some of the fonts that I use inside my book and some of the colors that I use as well, because I do believe that the two big things when it comes to creating effective looking covers by yourself is to have a good looking font and to make sure that the contrast between the color of your font and the color of the background of your book is eye-catching as well. So we're going to go over those two things in this video, as well as taking a look at how you set up the actual dimensions of your book as well. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing you want to do is to obviously come across to canva.com, and if you haven't got a free account, then you should get one already. I actually have the paid account just because I use Canva so much. I don't think you need it to do all the things that I'm going to show you in this video, so you should be able to get up and running with this for free. Okay, so the first thing that you'll need to know is what the size of your book is. So what we're going to be doing on Canva is creating the spread of the book. So we're going to be making the front cover of the book, and we're going to be making the spread. So the spread is the front cover and the back cover and the spine all in one. Okay, so we're going to make these separately. We're going to make the front cover first, and then we're going to pop it into the full spread after we've done that. Okay, so what I tend to do here is to create two different designs just to get the annoying calculation part out of the way. So the first design that we're going to do is the front cover of our book. So this is the easiest one to calculate because it is literally just the dimensions of the front cover of the book. So if you've already found the type of niche that you're interested in selling within, then you should probably already know what cover size that you're going for with your book. So I'm just going to use a typical size example for this demonstration. I'm going to go with 8.5 by 11. So just come up to the top right here, click on create a design, then come down to custom size. And then on the right hand side here, you want to change this from the PX to the IN as in 4 inches. And as we said, the width is an 8.5 by 11. So create new design. Okay, so this is creating the front cover of our book. And what I'm going to do now is just create another design here. So I'm going to go back to the Canva homepage, and just create another design here. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're creating the spread size template on Canva. So that's going to be the front cover, the back cover, and the spine all in one. Okay, so I was recommended a way by a couple people on my channel about how we can get the size of the spread much quicker, and a lot of people, and including myself now, use this bookowl.com website. I'm not sure how that's pronounced, but that's bookow.com. So if we come across to bookowl.com, what we'll see here at the top is that we can create the KDP cover size here just by clicking this, and it's going to take us to a calculator that's going to calculate the size of our spread so that we can just put that into Canva. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So just click on this one here. Okay, so that's going to bring you down to this KDP cover size calculator and this one here, the KDP cover template generator. Okay, so for this, we want to use this one here, the cover template generator. So ignore this and just go ahead and type in the dimensions of your book. So 8 by 5, 8.5 by 11 was the size of my book. And then of course, you should already know your page count for your book. So I'm just going to go ahead and type in 35 for an example here. Then you can select the paper type, and mine is going to be white. And you can just ignore the ISBN and this one here as well. And you can ignore the formats because you're going to get them in a PDF and PNG file. And then what you want to do is just to type your email address in, and then what it's going to do, it's going to email you these templates for you to get the information from, and also so you can put this template into your Canva design as well. So that might sound a little bit complicated at the moment, but I'm going to show you exactly what I mean by this. Okay, so then Bookowl is going to send you this message here, and attached to it is going to have your files. Okay, so it includes this zip file here, and it includes a video, so you can just ignore the video and download the zip file. And then once you've extracted your zip file, you're going to get this PDF and you're going to get this PNG file here. So what we can see when we load up the PNG file, so this one here, the PNG, let's load this one up. Okay, so this is the spread template that we're going to put into our Canva design. But first, what we need to do is to create that design template on Canva. So we need to have the right size on Canva so this can fit in. So this is for the second Canva thing that we're creating, okay? And what you're going to see here at the top underneath the page layout size is the dimensions that you need to type into Canva, okay? So this is 17.329 by 11.25. So these are the numbers that we're going to use for this second Canva design that we've just created that's going to make the spread for our book. So 17.329 by 11.25. So 11.25. And then just create your new design now. Okay, so what this leaves us with now is the spread design here for this one, and also the front cover, okay? So what we're going to be doing is creating the front cover on this one and then putting it into this one here, okay? But the first thing that we want to do is to put this PNG file into the spread design on Canva. So we're going to upload this, and I'm going to show you why we're doing that later on when we come to create the whole book. So you want to go to uploads and then just find where you've unzipped that file to, that PNG file, and then just upload it into Canva. Okay, so that's going to upload into the left-hand side under uploads. Then you're just going to click it or drag it across from there into here. And if we've done this correctly, then this file here should fit exactly into the template design that we've created here. So just bring it up to the top right-hand side. It should snap into place. And then what we're going to do is just drag it down to the bottom left, and it should hit the corner exactly at the bottom if we've done it right, and we have. So we've got the dimensions absolutely perfect for our book. And that is one way to confirm it, by putting this template in here, making sure that it fits and snaps in correctly. Okay, so we're going to put this to one side for now. And what we're going to do is to work on our front cover. So this side here is the front cover, and we're going to design the front cover on the first one that we made, okay? Okay, so this is where things get important now. And we do need to bear in mind, especially for someone like myself, someone that can't design things very well, which I have disclosed many times on this channel, is that we need to create an effective cover, and we need that cover to stand out in the Amazon listing. So let me show you what I mean by that very quickly. Okay, so just to come over to Amazon here and do an example of what I mean is when our customer is scrolling through Amazon, the front page of Amazon for the keywords that we're being found for, we want them to see our book. So we're not going to worry about what they do after they click on our book. The first and most important thing that happens here is that the customer sees the book and that their eye is drawn to our book as soon as possible before they get to our competitors' books. So as discussed in the start of the video, the two things that I look for when creating my cover is that I want the font to stand out. I want the text to stand out so that the customer can read what they're getting before they even click on my book, before they even read the title. I want them to know what they're getting on the front cover of my book, okay? So that's the first thing. The second thing is the contrast in color between the font and the background. So for example, here we have I think that's orange. We have the orange keto word, and on the background we have the green. So for me, the contrast doesn't work on that. It doesn't matter. This person's running ads to their books and probably making some sales with it. So it doesn't matter that this is the first book. This is just an example. So for me, that color combination doesn't work. And what you can do to get an idea of the combinations and fonts and styles that work is to just scroll through your competitor's book. So let's use word searches, for example, here. And what you can do is just slowly scroll through at a customer's pace and see which ones stand out to you, because ultimately you are still a customer. You've probably bought things on Amazon. You know what your attention gets drawn to. So just put yourself into buyer mode just for a few moments and scroll through the front page of Amazon for the niche that you're in. So let's just scroll through this one. And I can only say from my perspective what catches my eye, but that's all I can go by. Okay, so I've instantly stopped on this one here because two reasons here, and I like this book a lot because we have a big book cover size for a start. So this is in centimeters, but I'm going to assume this is an 8.5 by 11 inch book. So with an 8.5 by 11 inch book, you actually get more image space than you would with something like a 6 by 9 book. So instantly, they've got the size absolutely perfect for this type of niche. 8.5 by 11. It's a big word search book. That's caught my attention already. And the second thing that I can notice is that I've stopped here because as a customer, I'm scrolling through, I'm looking for word searches, and the first book that I can find that makes it extremely evident that it is a word search is this book here, because they have huge font on the front of their page that just says word search at the top. So me as a customer, I know exactly what I'm getting when I scroll through this, because the first thing that I see is this cover. It's not the writing on the side here. Like this is the next step. Like the title and the subtitle is the next step for the customer. They've seen the title. The next thing they do is they go over and then check exactly what they're getting. Okay. So this is your sales pitch here. The cover is everything. And the second thing that I like is the contrast between the color of the font and the background of the book. So we've got the white font and it stands out perfectly on the green background. And then as for the type of font that's been used here, it's just clean, it's bold, and it looks good. I think it's got a slight drop shadow on it as well, which we can do in Canva. I'm going to show you that in a minute because it does make your book stand out quite nicely. So what I like to do from here, after I've found one that's caught my attention, is just to scroll through the rest of the first page and see if anything sort of grabs me more than this book has. So let's scroll through now. This one does a little bit. I mean, this one has, just because it's so colorful, and yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, this one's doing extremely well, but it's caught my attention ever so slightly. It's not the best. I think everyone can agree with me here. It's not the best looking cover, but it's certainly effective, isn't it? Again, this one catches my attention, but it is a smaller size book. As you can see, it's much slimmer than the 8.5 by 11s. And again, maybe this one, I'm not sure about the contrast in colors here. Okay, so for me, the one that grabs me the most is this green and white one with word search in big writing at the top. So what does that mean? Does that mean that we go ahead and just copy what this person does? Absolutely not. Of course not. But what we're doing is taking inspiration from what we think is going to be effective to our similar customer. So for me, I would never make a word search puzzle with 1,500 words in it because I don't think I have time in my life to make something like that. I'm sure it would be very profitable, but for me, I would more likely be making something like a word search puzzle book for adults with vision issues or something like that. Something a bit more niche, something a bit more specific. Have 100 puzzles, have 80 puzzles or something like that. But we already know that this type of cover is something that can definitely grab our attention within the niche that we're looking in. So we can take inspiration from this person's book and then apply it to our niches. Okay, so back in Canva now with our inspiration. And of course, you can take much longer doing this than I just have. This is just my thought process that I go through every time I create a cover. And I do spend much more time on my covers than I am in this video. And I think it's a very strange thing for someone to try and give an example of what they would do with their work, because on one side of the coin, I don't want to produce something that looks terrible and then have people think that I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to creating covers. And then on the other side of the coin, I want to create something that looks good, but again, I don't want it to be good enough so that people just copy the exact thing that I'm doing, when of course you need to have your own ideas and your own way of doing this as well. So we're just going to go with it in this video and hopefully we can come up with something half decent. Okay, so first things first with the front cover here, I always like to just start with the title. So let's just go ahead and click on text on the left hand side here and then click add a heading. That's going to put that right in there. And of course, that you don't have to be using Canva to do this. If you're good with other programs like Photoshop or similar design software, then use that absolutely, of course. If you can make something that looks better than what you can do in Canva, if you're more familiar with other programs, then use other programs, absolutely. Okay, so what did I establish from my niche research regarding the title of the book on the cover? It needs to be quite big and the font needs to look good. So let's go ahead and just start with word from word searches and make this as big as we can. And then we're going to put the second word just underneath. Okay, and then what I like to do next is get part of my subtitle, the next relevant part of my book in here as well. So if I was doing a word search, let's say for women, then I would want to make that the second most important part of my book. So the first and most important part of my book is that the customer sees is that this is a word search. So therefore I prioritize the size of the word search. Okay, then followed by the next important thing, which is the sub niche that I'm going for, which is for women. So that can come next. Okay, so this can possibly go at the bottom of our book here. Again, prioritizing the main niche, which is word searches, then the sub niche, which is for women. Okay, so the third component here that I want to go for is to have some sort of graphic in the book as well. So it's going to be quite simple. It's going to be related to word searches. So what we can do is to come across to the elements side on Canva. And we've typed in word search on elements here, but I'm not finding anything that I think I can use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go onto the photos section of Canva and try and find something there. Okay, so these look like something that we can put on the front cover of our book. So I'm just going to do this quickly and take this one here. Okay, so we have the three sort of basic things that I like to see on my front cover, which is the main niche, which is word search, followed by the sub niche, which is for women, and then a graphic on in the middle as well. So I don't actually tend to put my author name on the front. Like if that's something that you want to do, then of course you can put that in as well. So the next thing that I go for here is I want to try and get the color contrast right between the text here and the background here. Okay, so we saw that green and white, well, I was taken by green and white, so for the sake of this book I'm going to go for green and white. So let's change the background first to green. So again, this is something that you can just fiddle around with until you get the contrast in colors right. So unfortunately I am actually slightly colorblind, so it's not the best. So I'm not the best person to take contrast advice from, but I can only go by what looks good to me. Okay, so there we go. We have our colors in there. Now you got to look from here as to whether this looks bland to you or not. And to me, this looks incredibly bland and it's not really sticking out. It's not standing out enough so far. So the next thing that I like to do is to try and find some sort of texture for the background. So we've established that we quite like this green color. What we can do is come across to background here on the left hand side and then scroll down to textures. And then you can start selecting these different textures for your background. So I'm going to have to I'm going to have to find the green color again, unfortunately. And if we can't find any textures that we like the look of, what we can do is just click on background again and then type in something like pattern. And it's going to bring a ton of different patterns up here that we can use for our book. Okay, so this makes it slightly more interesting to have a pattern in the background. Now, this isn't a pattern that I would actually use myself. So for the sake of example, let's just use this one. So what you can do when it comes to using some sort of pattern on the background of your book is to make it specifically targeted toward the sub niche that you're going for. So for example, if I'm targeting women, then I might want to look at things like flowers on my background. Okay, so what you can do if you can't find anything in the background section that you think looks good for your book is to come across to the elements section and search in there instead. So let's just look for flower patterns, and what we can do, let's just delete the background that we had on here before because I'm not finding something that I like the look of. And then what we can do is just test a few of these backgrounds and see how they look on our book. So with these ones, when you click them, you're going to have to stretch them out across your book to make them visible. So just snap them up into the top right and then just drag them across all the way to the bottom. And then what you're going to want to do is to first change the color of these. So I'm going to put these as white and then go to position and then send them to the back. Okay, so what you can do from here is if you think this looks a bit messy, if the background looks too strong for you, is you can click the background image that you just put in, which is the flowers, and then come across to this button here and change the transparency. Just drop it down a bit. Make it a bit more subtle in the background here. Okay, so what I've done is I've just quickly changed that to another background because I didn't actually like that one. And we have something that's a bit more, it looks a bit thicker in the background that we can actually see without being too messy. I'm just going to change the transparency down ever so slightly on the background here. And I think I'm going to leave it about here. Okay, so what's missing next? I think the word search and the for women part need to stand out slightly more. So the next thing that we can do here is to find a font that looks nicer. So Canva has plenty of fonts that you can play around with. And I do believe that the font that you pick is very important for the overall style of your book. So you can go from having a book that looks okay, a book cover that looks okay, to a book cover that looks really effective if you get the font type right. So for this is going to be something that might take you a bit of time to find, but once you find a font that you think looks really good on your cover, you can use this in multiple covers in this niche from here on, okay? So when it comes to things like word searches, I want to have a bold looking font on the front. So what you can do on Canva here is just type in bold, and that should hopefully bring back all the different types of bold font that you can use. And what you can do is just go through all of them. It might take you a few minutes to do it, but it's totally going to be worth it. Okay, so what I've done here, I've just found another font that I like the look of. It looks really bold and stands out. Now, of course, again, this is just an example of a book, and I wouldn't necessarily use such a strong font when it comes to selling something that is specific for women. So if this was just a word search for a senior or an older person or something like that, then I would be absolutely fine with using this really strong type of font. But maybe something for women, I would look something a little bit more stylish as well. Okay, so the next thing that you can look at in terms of what you can do with your font to make it stand out even more is to look at putting something like a drop shadow onto it. So what we can do is if we click on the word that we want to put it on, we can go to effects here and then go for either shadow or lift. So lift always looks quite good to me. And as you can see, it does make a difference. Like to me, this makes a big difference, especially for my eyesight. So if we look at what it looks like with nothing on it, in comparison to something that has lift on it, and we can even increase the intensity from 50 to 100 here. And to me, I really do think that that stands out much more than what it did without the lift on it. So let's go ahead and put that onto all of our words. Okay, so you can see what we're doing here. The cover's getting slightly better as we make these small adjustments. And that's exactly what it is. It is small adjustments to your book as you go along. And eventually you're going to have something that looks really nice. So the next thing that I take a look at is how does the graphic that I've chosen look on my page? And for me, I think it's a little bit strange that it's just floating in the middle. So maybe I can drag it all the way to one side and make it a bit bigger. And to me, that looks slightly nicer now. You might disagree, but I think that the graphic is the not so important part here. So what you do with this is not as important as the font, the background, the contrast, and the things like the drop shadow as well. So again, this is just an example. Obviously, I've just done this very quickly. Take more time with your cover than I have on this one. Again, I didn't want to spend too much time and create something that I think people are going to copy. But at the same time, of course, I wanted to show you the steps that I take to making an effective looking cover. Okay, so one of the biggest tips that I can give you when it comes to looking at your cover and seeing if it looks good or not, and it's going to sound slightly strange, but it's something that I do with every single cover that I make, is to step away from the computer and then just walk back into the room and take a look at my cover from a distance, okay? So it sounds slightly weird, but if you go and step away from your computer and then come back and look at your cover from a different perspective, a different angle, you'll see the things that are wrong, because you've been sat here for like half an hour to an hour, you've been creating this cover, and you'll zone out a little bit when it comes to looking at what's wrong with it. So what I like to do, like I say, just step away for a bit, take a break, come back into the room, look at your cover from a distance, and then you're going to start noticing things. So I'm going to do that to myself right now, and I'm going to tell you what I think looks wrong with my cover when I come back. Okay, so as I've come back in, what I can notice here is that, of course, the cover itself doesn't look great because I haven't spent too much time on it. But other than that, there seems to be a difference between how dark these two words look and how dark the words look at the bottom here. So what I'd be tempted to do is to make the lift on this slightly less for these two. And as I came back in, the stretched image doesn't look quite right. So I think I'd actually be happier to have it centered like that. It would look slightly nicer, I think. So that's what I do anyway. It sounds a bit strange, but it seems to work for me. And what's good is that when you are making like a series of these type of books, of low content books, is that once you've nailed this first cover, you can then go ahead and create your other covers around it as well. So you found the font that you like the look of for this niche. So I like the look of this font for this niche. So I can, if I was making edition 2 for this book, so like for a Father's Day word search, if I was making a second edition or a third edition or fourth edition, I could literally just use this same template and change a couple things, change the image slightly, put more numbers in and say this is edition 2, and just keep this sort of basic template of this. So what you can do, what I'd recommend that you do is to make sure that you obviously save this first by going to File and then Save. But what you can do from there is to click on Make a Copy, and that's going to make another copy here. So you're going to move on to your next book. If you have multiple books made in this niche, which you should be, then you can go ahead, use the same template, but just type in the different details for the second book. So this could be for Mother's Day or something like that. But if you're doing something like this, then you want to make it obvious that it is a different book. And what you can do, so the first one could be a Father's Day book and it's going to be the green background. Next could be a Mother's Day book, but you could change the background to a slightly more feminine color. So something like that. But of course, you'd have to change the pattern as well, just to make sure the contrast is still there. So something like that. It looks a bit too strong for me. So I'm going to drop that down, put that back. And there you go. There's your second cover. You've made your second cover within a matter of seconds almost, okay? And of course, if you want, you can change the image on it. But for me, I like to try and keep a sort of theme. Like if this is all going under one author name, then I want people to see that there's a theme between all of my books so that they're easily recognizable. Okay, so let's go ahead and assume that this is a better looking cover than it actually is, and we're ready to put this into the spread of our book that we designed earlier. If you can remember here, we have this one ready to go. So what we want to do is to download this one here as a PNG. So download at the top here, then go down to download. So click on download. That's going to download that. And then what you want to do is to go back to your spread design here and then upload what you just downloaded into this one. Okay, so I have uploaded this design here. So I've saved this one here, and I've uploaded it into the spread here. So the first thing that you want to do is to get this front cover onto the appropriate side, which is obviously the right hand side. So just drag this up to the top right until it snaps. And then what you can do is just to drag the bottom left to the bottom left of this right hand side page. So drag it down It should lock in right there like that. Okay, so once you've done that, what you want to make sure is that your words are within the red line. So as you can see, there are red lines, I think they're red anyway, around the entirety of the spread here. And what you want to make sure is that the words on your book don't hit those lines. So the way that we can do that, if I just put it back in place where it was, is to click your image, the front cover image, click that, then come to the transparency button, if you can remember that, click that, and then just slowly drop it down until you can see the red lines behind. And this is why we've put this template in, just so that we can make sure that our book is in the right area. Okay, so as you can see here, if I drop it down a bit further, just in case you can't see this, that the word search, Father's Day, it comes nowhere near the red line here, so this is absolutely fine. Okay, so what we want to do now is to make sure that we have the back cover done as well, and want to make it in theme with the front cover. So what I like to do here, and we can do this quite quickly, is to come across to elements here and then go down to shapes and just click on the square one here. So what I do here is I just put this square into the top right. So before I do that, the line here, the red line here, the one in the middle is going to be your spine. So the number of pages in this book is quite low, so the spine isn't very big. But so for some of your books, it will be bigger than this. So I just want to make sure that you can actually see it. It's this red line here, okay? So what I like to do, grab this square and drag it to the top right hand corner. Now unfortunately it doesn't snap here, but you just need to line it up so that it leaves just the spine in the middle here, okay? So you can see it's lined up against the red line here, okay? And it doesn't matter if it's not quite touching it, if there's a white line in between, don't worry about that at the moment. Just make sure it's close enough to it. And then what you want to do is just fill out the rest of the page here with this square. So click the square and then you can grab whatever side you want to drag. So I want to drag this all the way down to the bottom. That should snap that side. And then of course I want to cover the left hand side here, and that should snap on the left there. Like that. So we've covered this side of the book. Now we obviously want to make sure that the color is the same as the one that we use for the front cover. So what we can do on Canva here is just click on the square, the rectangle here, go up to the color change button, and then it should be under photo colors. You should have all the colors that you're currently using on this page, and it should have this green color, which should be the background for this book here, the background for this page here. Okay, so let's click that one, and yep, that is the same color as the background. Okay, so now it's up to you what you decide to do with your back cover. You could put the same flowery design on the back as well, and if you want to do that, you can just come across to your old cover here, your front cover, and just copy, right click and copy the flowery pattern, and then paste it onto this side here. Copy, paste, and that's going to put that in. Then of course you're going to need to resize that just to make it look right. Okay, so we're nearly done here, and obviously what is left over is just this spine here. So what you can do is just click the red bit here. So that's going to be the PNG file that we uploaded, the template, and just click that and then just click delete, and that's going to get rid of it. And that's going to leave you with your spine area. So you can do what you want with this. Like at the moment, this color is obviously going to be white because the background is white for this design. White looks okay to me from what I can see at the moment. You might want to change the color of that, and you can do that just by clicking in the middle there and then going to the color options, and you can just pick whatever color looks good on your spine. I wouldn't worry too much about this. For the most part, for my covers, I try and make it like a slightly different shade of what color I've been using. So to me, that looks okay like that, with like a sort of greenish color. And that's it. You're done. You've made a cover. You've made the spread for it as well. And you can just come to download and then click PDF print, because that's the one that you're going to use to upload this book into your Amazon account. Okay, so that's it for this video. I hope this has helped you start making covers for free. And as you can see, this is not the greatest cover ever. Take more time on your covers than I have here. Once you get that first cover right, you can base your other covers in that niche around it so that you have a decent amount of unique covers and unique books out on Amazon. Okay, so I hope this video has helped. I would love for you to subscribe if you haven't. And if you have, then there's plenty more on the way very, very soon.